Welcome to another edition of Black Men Screaming. My name is Maurice Carver, Executive Director of Stride Incorporated, host of your show. I'd like to welcome all those people out there watching the BMS TV network around the country. I'd like to welcome my guests who are joining me via Zoom tonight. We have the beautiful and the brilliant Lori Jones, and we have the bodacious, and let me tell you something, he's like one of my new heroes. We have Bert Irons. Please tell us what organizations you're from.
Hi, my name is Lori Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Village Circle Incorporated.
And I'm Bert Irons, the coordinator of the Council of Bad Language Disdainers.
Welcome back to the show. You know, again, I look at the news, and obviously that's what we do on the show. We try to take it from a different perspective, a perspective that we don't necessarily always see on Sunday morning. A perspective which shows people of color being concerned about those issues that not only are on a local level, but a national, international level. And one of our major concerns right now is what's going on with President Trump and Congress and the economy and America and our relationships with other countries like China and Europe and NATO. All these things are coming to a head right now. And this whole impeachment thing, Bert, this impeachment inquiry, I find it very interesting. And so one of the things that I want to see, and I love the article that we were looking at, that we're going to be talking about, with dealing with the Atlantic. It was an article by Dan P. McAdams, and he wrote an article talking about a theory for why Trump's base won't budge. We have all this information coming out pertaining to this, the Russia probe, pertaining to this new impeachment probe, but yet the numbers don't seem to change. So I want to talk to you about that, and let's talk about why you think that might be happening.
Well, according to the author you just mentioned of the article in the Atlantic that you mentioned, is the basic issue with Trump is that he's a profound narcissist. And the narcissist is a person, of course, who thinks a lot of himself, who promotes himself and thinks, and is in love with himself. And he's in love with himself to the discomfort of the people around him, and to the problematic responses that he gets from them, and that they love him for a while and then they ready to leave him because they can't stand the continued self-love, self-expression, self-concern, self-care to the disbenefit of everyone else around him. So this article sort of goes against what psychiatrists complain about, people who do armchair psychiatric observations of people that may be inaccurate. But in this case, I think he is very close to the reality of the subject he's dealing with, or the subject that, if he's not dealing with it, that he applies, you can infer that he's dealing with Trump. But Trump is a very unusual president, the first of the type that we've had, who's blatantly narcissistic, and he exhibits it to the nth degree, not only in his administration, but with all the leaders around the world. Anyone he deals with, Congress, the cities, his followers. One interesting part is about his followers, the ones who are deep lovers that run counter to what the author of the article, the Atlantic article, said, but people get turned off along the way. But his followers don't seem to get turned on more and more with his narcissistic behavior, and they seem not to be dissuaded by anything he does or says.
Well, Lori, let me bring you into the conversation and stuff, and it kind of brings us back to a name that people be surprised that I'll even mention it. But yeah, we did a segment. We talked about Tavis Smiley, and we talked about that professor that said that the reason why a lot of these individuals like Trump and his behavior is not reconciled to their own personal morals is what? Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny because, for years, even before Trump was elected, Bill Maher used to make, some of his political pundits on his show would say, oh, we're full of smart people. And he'd say, no, they're not, and he'd start talking about how stupid America is. And, everyone was like groaning, et cetera. But, the problem, I think what he was referring to is that if you don't want to become informed, you can just follow someone like sheep. And I think Trump has done something that's really interesting. It's almost like I don't want to say a evil genius because genius shouldn't be used with his name, but he's done techniques that have been proven psychologically to work, which is repeating stuff over and over again until it's embedded in people's mind. And I think a lot of his base has heard, if he's saying, oh, I'm the smartest person you've ever known, or I'm the least racist person you've ever known, it doesn't matter what he does to the contrary, people are still accepting that as if it's gospel truth. And it's concerning, one, because we are dealing with the president of the United States. We're dealing with someone who, like you said at the beginning of your question, is embarrassing us on a world stage. When you have a NATO conference or you have world leaders gathering for whatever meetings and they're joking and making fun of the president, that's a concern, because that not only shows a lack of respect for him, but a lack of respect for our country, because this is the person that we have in charge. But his narcissism is to a fault, because it actually becomes delusionary. When he starts saying things, whether he's saying it, like I said, in the evil genius mode of, if I repeat this often enough, they'll believe it, even if he knows it's not true, it's even scarier, because you have somebody who is using their like Bert mentioned, their self-love and their self-adoration to be the main point of their existence, when they're in a very important position where we need somebody who's actually looking out for the constituency as opposed to themselves.
One of the things that I was thinking about, and Bert might not know this particular movie, and maybe you don't, Jones, but the younger people will understand what I mean. There's a movie called Mean Girls, okay? And I thought about that old movie with Lindsay Lohan and stuff, and let me see, Rachel McAdams. But the whole premise of it was that there was a person that was like this charismatic person that dominated the school, and she dominated everybody's lives, and they were just mean and disrespectful. So now we have a new version called Mean Politics. And in the movie, the thing that I thought was interesting about it, because the group that was the leaders were called the Plastics. And we can see, as you look at some of these particular political leaders that have been supporting President Trump, a lot of them was against Trump when he was running for office. Trump said horrible and terrible things about them. And now they just like plastic, all of the stuff that seemed to roll off of their back, and they're now in full support of him. And so the thing that I find even more interesting is, this whole variation of mean politics, that people buy into this particular narrative, and there is no movement in his popularity, because people are not reconciling what they believe is facts. And Bert, we talked about that. When you have organizations like Sinclair and then Fox News keep repeating the same things over and over again, and that goes to Trump's core base, they're not going to change their mind, because the messaging that they're receiving is saying that Trump is not wrong. Like Trump has said, I'm not wrong. The call was perfect.
Yeah, well, the other thing he's done, and again, it seems more like a technique as opposed to somebody who could just, come up with this normally, is he's coupled making blanket statements about how great he is, etc., with supporting the ideas for the success of people in this group, even if it's to the detriment of the bulk of the population. So if you have somebody where you're saying, okay, corporations are more important than individuals, and you start passing, signing bills and passing executive orders to make corporations more important than individuals, anyone who's connected to the corporation is going to be on board, whether they think you're an idiot or not, because you're hitting the bottom line. And, the problem is, the people that the article talked about, that people are initially attracted to the confidence. the fact that this person is exuding this confident, appearance and speaking confidently, that's fine. I mean, we had Muhammad Ali, who was the epitome of confidence, but he had something to back it up. The problem, and this is where I see Bill Maher's comments, the problem is if you have somebody who says something and then continuously proves that it's not true, the people who still continue to follow him are either blind or blinded, or purposely, blocking out whatever they don't want to see because they're getting a benefit. It's like Dr. Phil used to say that thing about what's the payoff. Even if people are in dysfunctional situations, there has to be a payoff for them to stay in there. And Trump has applied to his arrogance and his lying, to his whole platform, so that his base is just so caught up in it. And that's the other thing the article mentioned about, the crowds go on these rallies and all this other stuff, and they're loving it because they're around other people who can rally with them and put forth the ideas that they all agree with.
The danger we have here is that the narcissist is not the only one who loves himself. It's the people who are permanently caught up in the positive, what they see as the positive gusto aspects of the narcissist, and become part of it themselves. They see themselves in the expressions of the narcissist and become part of the destruction that the narcissist has to the overall structure of the political establishment, like as we have in the United States. That's how Hitler got started. That's part of what happened. He became such a figure who was similarly attired, mentally attired as Trump, and he got people to be in love with him. He took such bold steps. He was so strong. He was so confident in himself and his ability to accomplish things. So you have people now who are so confident in Trump that all his errors, all his lies, all his faults, all his mistakes, his errors, his negative behaviors mean nothing to them. They just go on. They become similar narcissists. They love the failure of the narcissist. They love which they take it to mean some positive thing for them. There's a future for them in the narcissism, no matter what the rest of the country, how they respond to it.
Yeah, and it also allows them, real quick, Maurice, it also allows them to promote their agendas, because even those people who are not corporate, bigwigs and, profiting in their 401k, et cetera, those people who are not successful or, below middle income, that are still rallying around him, even though he's making rules and regulations that are counter to your very existence. It still gives them the ability to promote agendas, whether it's anti-immigration, a racist mentality, any type of a situation that they've seen become acceptable within that administration. They're willing to forget about the fact that you're putting unqualified people like Betsy DeVos or Ben Carson or many others that have come and stayed or come and left in the administration in positions that are affecting the lives of the American people. They don't care, because they're still saying, well, these people are against immigration, so as long as they're in charge, we're good with it. These people are against abortion, so put them in the Supreme Court. They're just going along to get along, because their agendas, private, even though when it's not monetary, their agendas are being put forth with his very existence.
What you said is so important in the sense that a lot of the Republicans know better. If you got them in a quiet corner just between you and them, they say, yeah, this guy's a nut. But they can hide behind him and get the agenda that they have always striven for, demanded and wanted and longed for. They can get them executed and performed and articulated. And they can do it behind Trump and the people who love him. That's how they can get their agenda.